The first thing I do for any terrarium or aquarium project is get the background prepped and ready to receive paint. To get things prepped and ready, first I tape it off right about the halfway mark, then I clean it with isopropyl alcohol, wait for that to dry, and then just start painting. It usually takes about 5 coats of paint for it to be a fully solid background, but it can even take more depending on if there are any cracks or any pinholes showing through. Getting the tape up can be kind of tricky, but as long as you go slowly and pull directly opposite of where it was lying, you should be able to get everything off in one piece. Once the background's all set, I start working on the base or nutrient layer of the substrate. For the first layer, the most important part to me is the nutrient dust. I mix that in with a little bit of coarse sand at the bottom and then cap that off with even more sand just to keep all the nutrients from entering the water column. Before I finish off the substrate layer, I add in some Hardscape to get an idea of what I'll be working with in the future. The final layer of substrate is nothing special. Just a bunch of old aquarium sand mixed with some aqua soil and capped off with even more coarse sand. For the hardscape, I decided to use a large piece of bog driftwood and then just add some nice accent pieces of Ceru stone around it, gluing them in place with a cyanoacrylate superglue gel to make sure that it never goes anywhere. Once the hardscape is secure and in place, I use even more cyanoacrylate superglue to add in the epiphytic plants. This both helps hide the superglue marks from securing it to the hardscape as well as starts to bring life into the aquarium. I'm using exclusively different varieties of Bucephalandra just so that I can have a cohesive chaos. While all of them look similar, they all add a different level of variety into the aquarium. For the carpeting plant in the foreground, I'm using Eliocharis belem. That's a dwarf hairgrass variant that grows extremely well in my water. The background plants that I'm going to be using are a Java Fern Trident, Java Fern Petite, some Crypticorn Wendetti variants, as well as a narrow leaf Ludwigia. Once the planting's all set, I add in some paper towel and then slowly fill it with water so as not to disturb the substrate and all the nutrients I have in the bottom layer. By day 5, it's ready for its first maintenance session. It's a simple 50% water change, adding that back in with the dechlorinated water and then a small handful of ram's horn snails to start the cycling process. Though they may be small, they're one of the most important parts in an aquarium because they eat old plant matter and turn that into nutrients. At the end of the first week, the crypt in the back starts melting, so I start cutting away any old and haggard leaves to as not introduce any ammonia into the aquarium. Once all the cutting is finished, I do 2 50% water changes just to remove all of the debris that I can from the water column so it doesn't pollute it at all. On day 9, I'm starting to see the first signs of growth. The Salvinia minima that I added in has access to the atmosphere and therefore can turn nutrients in the aquarium into growth even quicker than any aquatic plant. With a young aquarium, one of the things I try to focus on most is keeping the glass free and clear of algae. This just gives the plants a better chance to win the ongoing battle. I also noticed that there were some holes starting to develop in the background and foreground that I needed to plug up with just a little bit more coarse sand. By day 10 is when I usually start doing my regular maintenance. It's not too much different from what you've seen before, just removing the floating plants, doing a 50% water change, but I add in fertilizer to help the plants even more. Given the fact that this aquarium has a tight-fitting lid that allows for little evaporation, doing water changes regularly is an even more important step than it is with a lidless aquarium. Day 11 was an exciting one because I started to see some small signs of growth from the aquatic plants. At day 13, just under 2 weeks in, you can really start to see the vision coming to life. The Ludwigi in the background is starting to grow well. There's snail poop appearing on the substrate, which means it's cycling well, and all of the processes of the aquarium are happening as I would like. The main reason I'm still doing such large water changes at such frequent intervals is because I'm not a big fan of the tannins being released by the driftwood in there, and I want to do what I can to mitigate that. The salvinia is also growing quickly and sucking up a bunch of nutrients from the aquarium, which is exactly what I want it for. After not doing any water changes or other maintenance for a few days, I want to see where the nutrient levels are and see if it's beginning to be safe for habitat. With the nitrate and nitrite levels being almost zero, I know that I'm doing a good job with the regular maintenance and that the plants are also doing their job with their maintenance. Now that I'm confident he'll survive the journey, I add in a little narite snail to help keep the algae on all of the hard surfaces down to a minimum. After just a few hours, you can see the narite snail hard at work, absolutely loving the algae on that Cereus stone. After 5 days of no maintenance, you can see the plants really starting to settle in and the new growth that it's putting out. While dampening the light entering the aquarium is amazing for the salvinia to be doing, you don't want it to completely erase it altogether, so make sure to keep it relatively clear. On day 23, I added the aquarium's first real inhabitant, a black tiger dario. Always make sure you acclimate the temperature of the bag to the temperature of the aquarium before you add him in there. I also shut off the light for the rest of the day to minimize stress from his move. It'll take him a few days to get acclimated, but seeing him out and about right in the forefront of the aquarium on day 1 is always a reassuring sign. I added in water fleas and other such microfauna to give him an activity of hunting and as well as a stable food source, but I'll also be supplementing that with frozen baby brine shrimp. Day 25, he gets his own first maintenance session. I decrease the water changes from about 50% to about 25% to minimize the disturbance that I'm giving him. By day 30, I'm confident in the health and overall stability of the aquarium. The plants have all grown in well, the Salvinia up top is still performing a fantastic job of nutrient upkeep, and the Bucephalandras are starting to put out new growth where everything else had melted. Well over a year after I first set this aquarium up, I'm coming back to it again. It's had periods of neglect. Unfortunately, the black tiger Dario inside has hence passed away because I left the windows open on a very cold night and it's an unheated aquarium. The plants, snails, and I've even added some shrimp in there have all been thriving since then. The background has also changed quite a bit, with the Java Fern Petite overtaking the Trident Mini and the Crypticorns starting to grow and spread more. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the first year plus of this aquarium's life. I've made a few mistakes with the fauna as well as the flora in there, but everything seems to be doing really well. And remember to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see everybody in the next video.